Right, this is a 2013 external, question 3. You could pause now and read through the question. Take your time, make sure you understand that you know what it's about. Once again, we're back to blood pressure and heart disease. In particular, this sentence that high blood pressure can indicate heart disease. So one way to test for it is by measuring blood pressure, seeing if it's high. We've got some information here. For the people who were tested, what proportion of the people had a blood pressure reading that was low? Well, there were 300 people tested altogether, and the number that had a low was 8825. And working that out on a calculator, just simplified as a decimal, it's asked for a proportion, so we could just give it as a decimal, 0.8568. Right, part 2. What proportion of people had a high blood pressure reading or heart disease? So once again, it's still out of all the people that were tested. What proportion of them had a high blood pressure reading or heart disease? So high blood pressure or they had heart disease. So these people here meet the criteria, as do these people and these people. So altogether, we've got 200 plus 336 plus 1139. Adding those all together, 1675. Doing the division, 0.16. So the important thing to remember here is to only include these people once. It's the people that had that or that. So by adding the three numbers together, we've included everyone that we need to include. Now we may need to come back to the table, but we'll just have a look at question 3. The percentage of people in the sample with heart disease actually had a high blood pressure reading. So now we're not talking about all the people, we're only talking about those that had heart disease. So you can look back at the table. There are 1339 with heart disease. We want to know the probability or percentage that had high blood pressure reading from that. So that would be 1139 and times 100 to make it a percentage. 85%, and that's probably rounded to two significant figures. Based on this sample, what is the risk of a person with high blood pressure having heart disease? So another word for risk is probability. And this time, once again, we're talking to people that have got high blood pressure. So looking back at the table if you need to, well, you probably all need to, the number of people with high blood pressure is 1475, and the number of them with heart disease was 1139. So working that out, 0.7722. It's asked for risk, so we could write that or a percentage. Right, part B. You could pause and have a read. I will best answer this with a tree, but you may find you want to answer it with a table. So you either have the disease or you don't. All of these people are being tested. The test will either come out positive for heart disease or negative. Right, so let's put some probabilities on. Heart disease affects 1 in 100. So the probability of having heart disease looks to be 1 in 100. Remember, probabilities on the branches have to add to 1. A blood pressure test for this disease gives a correct positive result 95% of the time. Correct positive. In other words, it gives a positive and it's correct. So you have the disease, it says you have the disease, and that happens 95% of the time. And it gives a correct negative result. In other words, you don't have it, it says you don't have it, and that happens 90% of the time. So unfortunately from this data that means there's a 10% chance that you don't have the disease and it says you do, which is why second opinions are very important. If a person does not have the disease, then the test says the person does not, with probably 0.9, that's what we've done. Right, a randomly selected person has a positive result for the blood pressure test. What is the risk they actually have the disease? So this is what we're given. They've had a positive result. We want to find the probability that they actually have heart disease. Remembering that the one that you're given is on the denominator, so that's the probability of a positive test, and on the top is the probability of having heart disease and you test positive. So the top number is easy, probability of having heart disease and you test positive would be 1 over 100 times 0.95. Probability of a positive test, there's two ways that can happen. So we multiply down the branches and add the two numbers together. 100% we could write that as 0.01 and this one's 0.99 to make the maths a bit easier. Working all that out, 0.0876.